Thank you so much. I just want to really welcome Michael. Thank you so much for joining. And I know you just got approved, I believe yesterday. So you are now official and we're really glad to have you. And
Thank you.
And Carolyn, I know you sent Rod Walker an invite, right?
Yes, I did. I did him.
Well, hopefully he's actually traveling, so hopefully he'll still be able to get on and we'll.
Oh, here he is. Hold on, here he is.
Okay, fantastic. But so we've got Rod Walker from the Blue Ridge Prism, Jim Barber from Albemarle County Parks and Rec, and Kyle Rhodes from the Virginia Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services. So I'm really happy to have you guys. Thank you so much. We're going to have to take care of just a little bit of business before we start our meeting, but we are going to get right to it. And so I need to read, let me go ahead and read what I need to read here before we start the meeting. All right, so this meeting is being held pursuant to and in compliance with ordinance number 20A16, an ordinance to ensure the continuity of government during COVID-19 disaster. The opportunities for public to access and participate in the electronic meeting are posted on the Albemarle County website and on Albemarle County calendar when available. And so what I'd like to do is to go ahead, I hope everybody's had an opportunity to review the agenda. And if we could go ahead and vote on approving that, that would be great. If anybody would move to approve that.
I move to approve the agenda.
Thank you, Peggy.
Second, Lonnie Murray.
Fantastic. And let's go ahead and just take a vote. Michael? Did you? Yes, okay. Bruce?
Yes, I approve.
Emma?
Yes, I approve.
Kate?
Yes.
Thank you. Lonnie?
Aye.
Thank you. Very good. And then hopefully everybody got an opportunity to see the minutes from our July meeting. And if we could go ahead and somebody could make a motion for approval of the minutes, unless anyone has a question about those.
This is Lonnie. I move approval of the minutes.
Great. And do we have a second on that?
I'll second.
Thank you, Peggy. Michael, would you like to vote on that?
Yes, I.
Oh, I wonder if you were, if you were not an official member at the time. It doesn't matter. I'm glad you approve of them.
But you can also do abstain.
Beautiful, yeah.
You can abstain if you'd like. Bruce, would you like to?
Yes, I
Okay.
vote yes.
And Emma?
Aye.
Wonderful. Kate?
Yes.
Great. I think I got everybody.
No, you didn't. I didn't. Aye.
Oh, okay. Wonderful.
Aye, yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much. We are going to go ahead and jump into the subject of the spotted lanternfly, and really appreciate that we have these experts with us today. Sad to hear that it has moved into Albemarle County, but perhaps it was inevitable. And I don't know if Jim, you would like to start out and just give us an update of where we are and what we know so far.
Yeah. Once again, Christine, thanks so much for having me. I'm Jim Barber, Superintendent of Parks, Albemarle County Parks and Recreation. Work alongside with Kim on some things, but July 15th, I was made aware that the spotted lanternfly had been located in Albemarle County. So I was actually out of town that day and started doing some research immediately on this little fella, and definitely an invasive insect, and it could caused devastation here. So I immediately, upon returning Monday, had already received emails from Kyle and Tina McIntyre, FEDAX, that were made aware of this as well. So until then, January, I wrote the day, January 27th of 2021 was the first time I'd ever even heard of the spotted lanternfly, in conversation with the Ivy Creek Foundation. And back then they were anticipating it being up north, and what are we planning, and if it were found here. Didn't do a lot of homework between now and July 15th, but since then learned a lot, and that's where I met Kyle. Kyle Rhodes is the spotted lanternfly crew leader for the Virginia Department of Agriculture and Community Services. So he is an expert on this. We've already partnered with him and Tina. They've gone through our special chemical policy to get an exemption waiver to be able to treat for the spotted lanternfly. And within the last week, I'll let Kyle kind of discuss more about it. They have installed traps and been on site on the section of the Rivanna Trail where it was originally found. So they have done treatments. They have done, I'm not sure exactly, he did send a report. I'll let him kind of follow up on that. And I know he's very interested in investigating upstream and downstream of this trail as well. So sounds like with the locality being close to the train tracks, the spotted lanternfly could have, moved in from that. Seems like, interstates, train tracks, or, is how this thing moves back and forth. So basically that's our approach right now, is we're treating and trapping, and Kyle has provided us with multiple information signages that we're putting in our kiosks throughout our parks just for awareness. And I'd like to introduce Kyle Rhodes. Once again, he's the crew leader for the spotted lanternfly for Virginia Department of Agriculture. Kyle, jump on in when needed, and
Sure.
fill them in on what you've been doing and our next steps moving forward.
So my bandwidth comes and goes. So usually I like to have a nice background so people can see the gigantic spotted lanternfly behind me. But yeah, so starting off, we received a report from a homeowner that found a spotted lanternfly on the Rivanna River Trail, and I was actually in Colorado, so I got some emails, but I wasn't able to be involved in that first pursuit. But we've been working with Jim, like you said, and so since then, on county property, we've done some visual surveys and kind of started to delimit the exact population. And I can show you some graphs here in a second. I don't know how much time you wanted me to spend on this, so I can talk a lot or a little, but I'll try to give you the overview, and then if there's more, I can always elaborate. So Tina and some of our inspectors followed up on that report, surveyed the property, and then we've put up circle traps, which, if you're unfamiliar with them, it's basically a trap made out of indoor screening and kind of a mesh screen make to funnel around the tree, and at the top kind of looks like a badminton birdie with a hole in it and a bag, or sometimes what looks like a peanut jar connected to it. And the spotted lanternfly nymphs and adults go up the tree into the net, and then they have to go inside the container, and then they perish. they work pretty well on desirable trees. So tree of heaven, the preferred host, but you can also find them on black walnuts, black locusts, oh gosh, American hackberry, box elder. I'm sorry. I think my brain's still in the field a little bit. So once we installed the traps, we worked with him, go through the process to actually apply chemicals to treat for them. The program is specific. We have to follow an environmental assessment that's actually written by USDA APHIS, because the funds that pay for my job and my crew all come through basically farm bill funds. So we have to follow that. So we, between the process we follow for the county and our own guidelines, we've been able to do 2 treatments and check the traps, which were actually very effective. Probably found 50 to 100 inside the traps dead, or caught inside, which I smush. So so far, between those 2 efforts in the population, let me share this if I can give you a little bit.
Can I ask you, are those a pheromone trap?
No.
So just physical, is a physical trap?
Yeah, there is a lure that they suggested early on, but if you use it on Tree of Heaven, I've never used the lure. I don't know that I think they've kind of gone away from it because it's not a big draw. Let me see.
And can I ask something just to clarify? The traps you were setting were from the original place where the homeowners found the spotted lanternfly? That's the only place you've been trapping? Or have you been doing it other places?
I mean, let me show you. Let me see. I just downloaded this. My GIS is slow on the computer.
Emma, while he's looking, I do know on the Albemarle County property, they put out 17 traps. Just on the county property.
Does it just defoliate tree, or does it actually kill the tree? Or I'm not sure how it.
Sorry, you broke up there on mine. Maybe it doesn't kill the tree, if that was your question.
Defoliates it.
No.
What does it do?
The trap?
No, the lanternfly.
Oh, sorry. They are they feed. They have sucking mouth parts. So they actually are heavily sucking the sap out of the tree, and then their eyes are bigger than their stomachs. So they actually suck so much out that they then excrete it out directly, and then it covers everything. So
Okay.
as they're feeding, they're basically creating a honeydew underneath any vegetation underneath, or I mean, in Winchester, it's people's cars and sheds and lawn. It's all black from sooty mold. And on a year like this, when you've got drought and other disease factors, it starts to compound on certain tree species. And I think in Pennsylvania, they've seen some mortality from trees, but it's pretty heavy. The trees, the population in Charlottesville and those trees don't stand to die from what's there now. Hopefully we can continue removing them. But can you see, this is the overview, and I cut it off a little bit. But you can see we have hundreds of traps across the state. So you asked, yeah, we're surveying. This is early. We'll probably put a few more central Virginia to fill in, but we started targeting our traps a little more specifically. So if you can see, I didn't zoom in too well because you would miss a lot of it, but basically the big green blob in the northwestern part of the state is Winchester and surrounding area counties. And then as you move, further south and west, that's looking corridors and some rail. And then if you move directly east, I guess, can you all see my screen? Yeah, maybe you can see my pointer. This population is actually Prince William County. We have, that's a unique situation. I won't go into, you can ask me later, but we have a bunch of traps there. And then these are all run by either inspectors or some USDA staff, some master gardeners, volunteers. We typically get between 1,500 and 2,500 traps up per year. And those are not all circle traps. So they're various. There's 2 other types. A bug barrier, which is basically quilt batting around a tree, and then a sticky band inverted with the sticky side in. And then in some areas, we don't use them as much for reconnaissance trapping, but we still do use some sticky bands, typically cut in half so that there's less surface area. Try to limit bycatch, but we do use those, and they're in this trapping layer. So I'm going to stop sharing this one, and I'll show you the one that's closer up. So just give me a second here. I have a full presentation, but it takes me about 45 minutes to get through. Figured you all didn't want that level of detail. If you do, you just let me know, and I can head that direction.
Are there other instances where you've had the this sort of level of outbreak with the traps and the chemical treatments where that's been effective in controlling it?
Definitely. Access is the big thing for this population. So in other instances, it's a different mode of, I mean, I can't say for sure this came in on rail, but things point to that pretty heavily. So in the other instances, one in Shenandoah County and one in Augusta County, those were truck or car traffic areas, probably truck, and isolated to one property. So we were able to go in and with multiple traps, and I literally were catching them and smashing them and scraping the eggs off. We went pretty hard and fast because you've got a high transfer area there, so they can, as easily as they were brought there, they can get back on another vehicle and keep heading south or go in another direction. So we went after those pretty heavily, and we're putting the same amount of resource here. This map doesn't show the amount of effort that we've put in. This is another trapping map, but you can see these are all traps that we have along the known population. And the yellow is, I don't know why they put that in there, but it should be green, but that's on the other side of the river. And then I wanted to show you one other, let me see if I can pull this up quickly.
Kyle, can you give us some sense of how many bugs have actually been found in Albemarle County and over how big an area?
How many? I would say between 250 and 500. And that's nymphs and adults, mostly 4th instar, so the red ones,
Right.
and adults. But out of that number, I would say I'd have to look at the trap data to see what we actually pulled out. And the 5 is high. That's like, and the reason I give you that number to be realistic, because what you see and what is actually there are not always the same, right? You see one, there's probably 5 to 10 more. They're really good at hiding and not so easy to catch and kill sometimes. So I'd say on the high end, maybe 500, but we've probably, between trapping effort alone, probably killed several hundred in the traps. That's good. But if you look at this, this is zoomed in of our survey. So the red dots are positives. And it's not interactive because this is a picture, but basically we go out, we keep finding them, and then we keep going along until we don't find them, and then we go a little bit further just to make sure.
Kyle, you need to reshare, I think, because we can't see your screen anymore.
Oh shucks. Okay.
And how big an area are we talking about?
Oh yeah, you asked how big the area was.
That
In
particular
in
section,
acres.
Kyle, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Jim.
I was just saying that particular section you're treating in Albemarle is just about a mile along that trail system.
So there you go. That's about what we've surveyed. The treatment is a few hundred
And
yards.
is
of
everybody
that.
aware where this map is showing right now? So this is Still Meadows, just in Carsbrook. And this is the Rivanna Trail along the Rivanna, obviously. Upstream from that would be getting more towards Polo Grounds Road. But Still Meadows subdivision is where we are.
So basically we've done treatments all through here where we have access. For some of these places, like on this rail corridor, haven't done treatment because we have access to the rail. This is Norfolk Southern property. So when we walk through, you know, you can take note of it, but doesn't mean we don't. I don't know if you have experience, but it's a challenge. So going forward, stop sharing this. And I'll give you so I zoomed in. Let me zoom out a little bit. This will give you an idea of, we've checked basically all the rail lines across. Yeah, and I need to share it. Here we go. Sorry if you can hear my dogs in the background. So if you look, these are all surveys, and you don't see the red now. Can everybody see this? The survey? No.
Yes.
Okay.
Can, yeah.
Appreciate you. All right, so we've surveyed basically, this is a CSX line down here, if I remember correctly. Yeah, this is CSX on the Nelson County border, and then you have 2 sections of Norfolk Southern that come and then run out towards Crozet into Augusta County. So we've surveyed pretty heavily along there, and it's all green. So that means we haven't, doesn't mean it's not there, it just means we haven't found it if it is. So we're starting to work on awareness. We just want to make sure that when the reports come in, we're prepared for that. So getting Virginia Cooperative Exchange extension agents ready and getting the right message put together. So that, I think we'll be looking to do more push to get people reporting, and we'll just continue to survey between my staff, USDA, and other partners. We'll keep looking.
Kyle, this is Mike. I have a question for you. With so much attention to the rail lines, are you talking to the rail folks and making them aware, and photos, pictures, checking trains and so forth, or at least observing whether this is active along their train lines in other areas?
Yeah, they know about it. The big rail knows about it, because this is a problem between New York, from New York, south, and then starting to move west in other states.
So you think it originated in New York?
No. It originated in Pennsylvania, the pest infestation.
Okay.
I can't say that that's how it came here. It would just be speculation, so I won't. And I can't say for sure that it came in on a rail. I mean, there's residences right there. People walk the trail. They can hitchhike. They're really good at hiding. Somewhat unlikely, but it's not impossible.
It's a logical thought in my mind too.
Yeah.
Kyle Monty's had his hand up for a while there too.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. So question. So for trees that are infected where this thing is more prevalent, what is the % of mortality for native trees?
Mortality?
Yeah. So I hear that it affects, it can affect like maples and other native trees. Like I know like emerald ash borer, it has almost 100% mortality for trees, but what's the % of trees that die once they're they're infected with this insect?
So I would say directly from this pest is pretty low. It's my understanding of the research. I've read it all, and there's a lot more coming out, frequently. My understanding is that this is an added stressor to some species. Now, I can show you some pictures from Pennsylvania. You can Google them where the entire trunk is covered, and each one of those lanternfly is feeding. So that has a significant impact, especially, I don't know how dry you all are in Charlottesville, but we haven't seen rain. I don't even know what it looks like at this point in so long. So that has to have, this year we may see a lot more mortality in some of the drought-stricken area. From the research that I've seen, younger trees that already have other stressors, and it brings in, or, when you have a wound or you have stress in a tree, it attracts other pests, right? So I think it's more of a compounding factor, but that's just observation with my recollection of the research that I've read. Hopefully that answers your question, Lonnie.
Thanks.
Yeah, Kyle, I have the impression that when it comes to grapevines, if people don't treat them fairly heavily, that they can actually severely either kill or damage the grapevines.
Yeah, he asked about trees, but yeah, grapes, they love grapes and all sorts of Virginia creeper. And personally, I managed a vineyard for 4 years. I can't imagine that the concern of losing the vines is high, because it's a huge investment, 70 years to even get them to full production. But losing your crop because you've got adults that are feeding right before harvest, and they're just going crazy, eating and laying eggs. So I think, I've heard of a couple vineyards, I don't know them directly, but I've heard through the grapevine, pun intended, that they had to dig out the grapes. The infestation caused them to shut it down, and they put the field in pasture, put cattle on it.
The porcelain vine is in the grape family, and which is a terrible invasive vine. So maybe it'll take them down. I don't know. That might be a good thing.
Yeah. They can have that, and the Atlantis all they
All
want.
along 64 is just nothing but porcelain vine. It's terrible.
If we could get them to stay on the invasives, then we'd be on to something. But,
Good shape.
they love maples, and I think I love maple syrup enough to say that I don't want them in upstate New York or Vermont or Canada. So it's just it's such a wide base. It went from 70 known species. I'm sure it's going to be well over 100, by the time some of the research comes out this year. So they're still figuring out what they feed on. I didn't think that they went to box elder, and I was in Prince William County, and every young box elder just had dozens of nymphs on it, and makes them easy to smash.
Well, that's maple, it's an acer, so it's a maple, Acer's Negundo, so.
Right, yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, I wonder if Highland County is concerned, because I know they're a maple syrup producer.
Good. Yeah, and I will tell you that the concerns in Albemarle, I know we're concerned, this is Albemarle County, but we have endangered species throughout the state. One of most concern is the rusty patch bumblebee. And if my memory serves me, Highland there's a part of that that's in the known rusty patch bumblebee area. So that makes, for us, for state, anybody restricted by this environmental assessment, we can't do any chemical treatment in those areas. So Loudon, parts of Warren, Clark. What's the other? Anyway, so and then there's some counties further west.
So is the pesticide like a neonicotide, or like what's the class of pesticide that's being used
Currently?
Yeah.
We use injections of dinotefuran, and that is in that class, but we only are allowed to use it on Tree of Heaven. So that's all that's been treated.
And that was approved through our waiver as well, so.
Well,
Yeah.
instead of treating the tree of heaven, why don't you just kill it? I mean, that would just eliminate the food source.
Well,
It solve two
that-
problems.
Makes perfect sense, except for in riparian area. If we take that out for us, for our involvement, if we take care of, we remove the tree of heaven, sounds great, right? Except then we have to use bifenthrin. So contact insecticide. So now you have more potential. I mean, we target when we spray. VDAX doesn't, our personnel don't use bifenthrin, but we have a contractor, USDA personnel do or can. And so now you're expanding just the potential to spray other things. Not that we're not
So
very
why not just-
targeted.
Why not just cut the tree and paint the stump with Roundup?
Yeah, you have to paint the stump or it's gonna get a
Right.
million.
That's a good thing. I think it's right tool, right place, right form. So along a river or in a wetland where we're restricted, I would say removing most or all of the tree of heaven would limit what we can do in the program for treatment. If someone else, or if the goal were to do treatments in-house, or somebody else wanted to take that on and do that, we would be fine to work that out. But if it's my suggestion, I think I wouldn't be so quick to get rid of those trees in that location. Someplace else, maybe different, use a different treatment method. But we can't use bifenthrin. Nobody can, because that's off label in that area. So in that specific place, if you were to remove those trees, the only thing you would be able to do is trap and use golden oil in the egg masses, which would be very difficult and time consuming to find them and treat them. So in other places, get rid of the tree of heaven, sure, not in this place.
Yeah, so Lonnie, to your point, one of the things I'm working on, actually with Bettina Ring, is I'm trying to convince the state, to undertake a program of, first of all, informing landowners in advance of the arrival that what they can do and what are their opportunities, and there is some research that's come out in the last year or two that has shown that if you remove the ailanthus entirely before the bug arrives, you'll get 75, 77% fewer egg masses. And so there is a case to be made, for removing ailanthus, before the bug shows up. Or I should say, not remove, kill the ailanthus. You don't have to remove it. If you just kill it standing and leave it standing, in most cases, you'll do the job. So yeah, I would love to see, both the state as well as the county, undertake a broader, both education activity as well as an ailanthus eradication, if you will, activity in advance of the bug arriving. And once the bug arrives, then there's lots of questions about whether you really want to remove all of the ailanthus.
Well, and that question for you, Rod, because I think you probably know this. Isn't Rodeo the aquatic approved version of Roundup? I mean, there is one that's approved for wetland use. I
Sure,
believe.
It is,
absolutely. Yeah, that's
You could use Garlon 3A too, or
Yeah.
Triclopyr formulated in an amine.
Yeah, I mean, I think, as with my other hat as on the conservation district, there is concern if the only tree you have in the riparian area is ailanthus, or it's like 90% of the riparian area. Do you want to remove all trees out of the riparian area? Well, that's a legitimate concern. But if it's 25% of the riparian area and you have other native trees, or you can come back in and plant, native trees behind it, I'd say remove them.
Yeah, or at least just kill them and leave them standing unless you have a reason to remove them.
Well, kill them, leave them standing. I think, you don't want to leave a void. You definitely want to put something back in there.
Sure. Absolutely. Just, I keep trying to avoid using the word remove.
Oh, it's a good point. Yeah, you want to leave this. Yeah, it's fine to leave them standing.
And most of the time when you do this, you're doing hack and squirt. So it's not like you're spraying all over the place with an herbicide.
Well, I think some ground rules need to be very carefully followed related to that specific topic. There's a heck of a lot of new research, and Lonnie mentioned the ones approved for wetlands. This is the lanternfly is absolutely something that has to be contended with, no question. But we also have to make sure we're not poisoning ourselves in the process. You're putting stuff into a wetland, nobody's measuring where that goes, the other damage to the other creatures. So there really has got to be a push on that side also. So yeah, there's a lot at stake here, a lot of which is not being measured on the chemical side. We're not measuring this stuff getting into our waterways. We're not measuring it in our water sources. So that's a pretty big conundrum that someone has to figure out how to manage.
Yeah, I mean, to that answer on where the big problems, is something I've looked at a lot. I think I am concerned about overuse of Roundup. And overuse of these, or any herbicide, honestly, because I mean they all have their problems.
Absolutely.
And I think the way that there's a big difference between what happens in agriculture, where they will wholesale spray a whole field with this stuff, versus what myself and Rod Wataker are talking about, where you're making a cut in the tree and applying a small amount.
I understand that. I'm simply talking about the education side.
Yeah.
Rod going out and treating things, I've known Rod for years. I think he knows pretty much what he's doing carefully. But there's a whole lot of education here. There's a reason Roundup is coming out of the consumer market. There's going to be products that are going to fill Roundup's spot in the consumer market. I assume they're already developed and just ready to sluice in. Otherwise, they wouldn't have agreed to remove them. So that education side has got to be really strong, or we're going to do untold damage that we're not aware of, or we're not publicizing based on one pest. So that's all I'm throwing that caution out here. I think that's exceedingly important.
Yeah, a lot of these things are plant hormones, and and getting any of that kind of stuff on your skin is, or like just a large amount of this stuff, particularly like agricultural workers. I mean, it's not good. Having homeowners applying any kind of substance without education, that's not a good thing. So I agree, education, it's a good.
And I was going to say, Lonnie and Kate, you're correct, but remember, everybody that's applying these pesticides are commercial applicators that have been trained, and it's the law to read the label. So, and I trust, and that's why we want Kyle in it. But yeah, I completely agree that when it comes to volunteers and things like that's a different story. But as long as you're a certified commercial applicator, you're under the oath to read the label and make sure the environment's your number one concern. So.
But we all have to appreciate, though, that labels only govern so much, and that's created by the manufacturer. So we do not have EPA limits to test in our water sources for any of this stuff. When we go and drink out of the tap, we do not know how much is in there because it's not required for us to collect that. That's not something you find in your water quality report. So we all agree, I'm sure, that there's a heck of a lot more going on here than a simple conversation.
I think it looks like there's two people that have their hands up. Emma.
Emma, do you want to comment?
Okay, you
want me to go ahead?
Well, you had your hand up first, so.
Yeah, so I just had a couple questions. One is, have the people in the Still Meadows subdivision been notified about, is there a way to reach out to the people who are in close proximity to where the sighting has taken place? It seems like that would be really important, whether it's with a flyer or, so that you get people on board to really contain it. And then I have another question. So, but I wonder if that has happened.
There is verbiage posted along that section that explains.
Into the subdivision?
Kyle, where did you post all of that signage?
Are you talking about the spotted lanternfly being there?
Yeah.
So
and so what I'm wondering, when I look at the maps, I see that subdivision. And so I think about, you have all those people that could potentially be spotters that could be interested in helping to identify it and to see it. And, was there any way, is there a way to reach out to those people with a, flyer in people's mailboxes or some way to next door to say, look, this is what you need to be looking out for in your backyard, and to enlist them?
So the short answer is yes. I was still in Colorado when this is, because we reacted the next day. It was,
Yeah.
they found it, we got the report, and then some of our inspectors and our CAPS coordinator, Tina McIntyre, she lives close to Charlottesville. So, she lives in the county. She was there. They were there the next day. Like I said, going after, looking, talking to people. And we've been back 3 or 4 times surveying and talking to businesses. Seems like there's already a fair number of businesses that know about this pest and have looked for it, which is good. But in that area, to your question, we've gone to door, given materials, asked for permission to check. And each one of our packets, it's basically a bag. I don't think I have one here. Anyway, it has a business card with contact information, what the pest looks like, history, how it got here, why it's a problem for our agriculture industry, and then talks about the program. And that goes out to, that's gone to all of those neighboring properties along the trail. So not the entire subdivision yet. I probably will do a mailing just because that's more effective than having people walk around with these bags, just time and effort. But we'll probably mail to the entire area and start there on both sides of the river and get those people informed. But in the immediate area, we have gone door to door on both sides where we found them. All of those positives on the other side are because one of our inspectors or managers actually went, talked to the people, said, hey, I'd like to survey your property, told them about the pests. We just don't go walking on people's properties. That's trespassing for us. So.
Yeah. Well, that's great to hear. And this is more directed towards Jim. Just wondering, Rod was talking about this idea of killing the ailanthus. Could we start on our parklands, and also having some way of educating the people who are out there on the ground, the people who are working in the landscaping, the mowers, the trail maintenance people? Do they have the training to be able to identify whether it's an invasive insect or an invasive vine or shrub, and whether that's part of their training that they go through, so they can be better informed?
As far as training, in the field training on what invasive plants are, we don't do that. Our staff have been around long enough, and our trails crew are very, very informative. Actually, one of our seasonals works for Devin Floyd. So she is for the Center of Urban Habitat. So she's actually training the trail crew on different invasives and things like that. But I know Kim and I and Andy Lowe have been working on an invasive management plan for the county, and probably some educational opportunities.
So will there be an opportunity to go beyond just the trails crew to the people who are doing the mowing and trimming, and so that they have a better sense of what is and what isn't invasive, that there's some opportunities for them to be more eyes on the ground, not just with the spotted lanternfly, but some of the other plants?
Well, yeah, we don't offer training except for some of the, part of their requirements are becoming registered technicians, and you learn about a lot of that during that training. But that's a great idea. We can host some events
because I know that the Blue Ridge Prism, right, is offering these training sessions, and there's going to be some this fall. So I'm just wondering, if that could be a possibility to really start getting those people on board. And I know it requires resources to begin that effort to kill the ailanthus on the parklands, but it seems like it would be an opportunity to educate there in the parks. We removed this tree and this is why, or we killed this tree and this is why.
Shoot me some info or dates, and we could definitely offer it to staff.
And if it's helpful, as Christine alluded to, we have already scheduled, landowner workshops in September, October with the Prism. And we talk about how to kill Ailanthus, among other things. We don't focus on how to identify the spotted lanternfly, but that would not be hard to add.
Right, yeah.
You
Well,
know,
that's
Rod,
great, yes. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
Rod,
we are exempt of our safer chemical policy to control woody invasives. So, as far as cutting and daubing, there's no waiver required for that. But any other herbicide applications or things like that, outside of the very few exemptions that we would have to go through Andy Lowe or environmental compliance manager to get waivers and approval to. But as far as woody invasives, we can treat now by certified or commercial applicators, not volunteers or things like that.
yes.
Are you
So
guys using the cut and paint method for all that stuff, or is there ever a time when you do find you have to spray?
On the woody invasives, we normally cut and daub the stump, paint the stump, basically.
Awesome, thanks.
yeah, and Rod, I wonder, I don't know how many staff they have, but I mean, I'm sure there might be other county staff that would be interested in, and I wonder if maybe Blue Ridge Prism would consider offering something just for county staff. If there are enough county people interested, there may be environmental services people and other people interested. It might be maybe there could even be some Charlottesville staff that might be interested, and you could, host something at the county office building.
The answer is we're always happy to do that. I mean, if that's helpful, if you've got a group of people and you want us to hold a separate session just for them, that's eminently discussable.
Nice. Well, Rod, I appreciate that. And we have some new employees now, and part of your training requirements prior to getting certified is 20 hours in the field. And this would be a great opportunity for them to receive some of that in the field training. So
Yeah, our in the field training is not in the field training in terms of actually doing the work.
right.
Yeah, it's more how do you identify the plants, and we may show them how to do things, but we don't actually do it.
Right. No, yeah, that's fine. And good call with the city. We have 2 county city jointly owned parks that we maintain, and I know Chris Jenzik well, and I'm sure he would have some staff that would benefit from that as well. So, and Kim as well with Andy or Dan and his crew, I'm sure they'd be interested as well.
Well, that's great. I think if this is the only thing that comes out of this conversation, I think that's an enormous piece of progress. The other question I have is, and I guess this is for Kyle, are you guys monitoring iNaturalist for reports on iNaturalist of spotted lanternfly?
Yeah, we check. We do. Some of the extension agents check iNaturalist. I have it on my phone. I probably should be checking a little more than I do. I try to get it at least once a week. And then we have a reporting tool through VCE that they monitor and share with us. And then VDAX itself has a report a pest email. It's word of mouth. You'd be surprised how many people end up getting it to us that way. Yeah, we seek out all avenues. So
great.
Emma.
Oh, yeah.
I was just wondering, we kind of answered it, but I was just wondering what, from you, Rod, and Kyle and Jim, like what we can do, like what would be the best, is there anything that we can do to help like educate people, or if you have the flyers that you need, help.
I mean to jump in, Kyle, but yeah, educating the public, no doubt. We have flyers. Kyle came in here and gave me stacks of brochures that we're putting in our parks on our kiosks. He gave me nice big rollout sandwich boards that as we're doing these community outreach events, I'm going to have one set up next to Serena's van, but definitely
Awesome.
educating the public for sure.
So
My question would be, sorry, my question would be whether the county has the appetite and the interest to not just put up brochures and posters and have handouts, but to proactively go out and literally communicate with every landowner in the county. And really
That's
do directed total outreach.
It's a
The
great
best way for the county to do that would be through CAPE and their social media outreach, and it would get to everybody quick.
The other option, I don't know if we're quite there yet, but I'm not against it. It's just kind of targeting the right time to get some of this information out. But we've worked in the past with municipalities and their water bill, so that gets a lot of people. You put something in the middle where they've got to look at it, and even if it takes them 5 seconds before they throw it in the trash, at least they see the picture of it, and that tends to stick. So that's something we can work with whoever, and I guess that's more of a city. I'm not sure how far public water goes out, but that's an option. Be willing to work with whoever on that. I'm in the process of hiring on a communication. One of my crew is going to be dedicated to that. Probably not a task for them to jump into right away, but would have someone to kind of help liaise that to me. That's a good option. The other thing is, I don't know if it'll be this year because of the funds that we have, but another thing we looked at was billboards along 64 and 29.
Cool.
Pictures of spotted lanternfly. I have some great images of a boot stepping on one or like above one. And we have some inside of a wine glass that, the crew that work for me are excellent. Although they spend a lot of time taking creative pictures sometimes, and which is very helpful. But that seems to get a lot of people's attention when you see the bugs inside of the wine glass, and there's a correlation between the grapes. And
that sounds like a great opportunity, is working with Albemarle County and Nelson County wineries, to get flyers up there.
They had it was on the news recently, but on Channel 29 news, but the only thing they were really focusing on was King Family Vineyard. So the fact that it's going to affect grapes, so
Carrington has.
That's gonna really hit home though. That's a big industry here. Those are all great ideas, Kyle, but I like the idea of just working with CAPE, because that's something we could do immediately and quickly. If you have something standard, Kyle, that we could send out through, the county has like an email listserv, and also, through the social media outlets.
Sure.
Not in lieu of those other things, but
Right.
That's a more
something
immediate
that could alert landowners.
My understanding is
Yeah.
the water bill thing takes several weeks. I did want to note that between now and the first week of September, and because this is not the most southern, but one of the more southern populations in the country, we're still learning because there's enough of a gradient between Winchester and Charlottesville. So they might be a little bit earlier. So I guess I'm just prefacing the statement. Typically in this month, August, they're feeding heavily and building up, and they're going to start mating in the end of the month. And then during that time period, they obviously come together and then they start spreading out. So whatever we can do in the next month to get people looking at them, thinking about it in that time frame would be pretty important to having the best impact. Because if you're going to see them, it's going to happen when they start spreading. So
I think it's a great idea to, is it echoing just for me or? Oh, I think it's a great idea to reach out to wineries and like orchards and people who are like actually invested in their crops and, have a reason to be looking out for this. And I'm sure a lot of them are, but, if there can be flyers dropped off, because they have a, interest in having individuals being educated on this too. So,
Yeah, I don't know if they still have it. I mean, I think they do, but the Charlottesville Chamber of Commerce has had an agritourism roundtable. It would make sense to get it to those folks through the Chamber of Commerce.
Kyle, did you say that you have a communications person you're hiring or an education person, or is that the same person together? I may have misunderstood.
I might have said education, communication outreach.
Okay, so
So-
that person would help with all the education and all that stuff?
Yeah, yeah. Honestly, the way the program, we do some education, but the way the program's set up is that we work with Virginia Tech and Commonwealth Extension or VCE, and that is their as their role, right? So working with, I'm gonna say your name, is it Cassie? Oh shucks, the extension agent. I'm trying to keep up with 8 counties worth of names, and I want to say her name.
Adam, isn't it Adam Downing?
Oh, maybe I'm.
He's Extension Forester for this.
There's somebody, I think somebody else they share. Anyway, so Adam for sure, he knows we communicate about what's going on in the program, but education, that is typically something that we work with BCE to do.
Okay.
So not that we just leave that to them, but that's kind of the extension role.
Can I put in a plug prior to flyers going out in that people think ahead for steps that people could take for whatever reason, whether it's because people like to do something, if you say, go find this bug and then report it here, that's something they can do, or whatever it is, just to give someone some way to engage with the process, I really think helps to make it more important to them.
Yeah, one thing I would add in here is if one of our primary objectives is education, then a couple of things. One is what are we trying to accomplish in that education program? There's potentially more than one objective. One objective would be, of course, identification and reporting so that we get early warning of any instances that show up. But another possibility is to tell landowners what it is they can do and how to do it properly, in advance of the bug showing up. I mean, as I mentioned, I mean, there is research saying that it's probably a benefit to kill your Ailanthus first. And the question is, do you want to try and communicate that message to people, and then to address Kate's concerns about how do people actually do that and do it properly? So what issues do you want to get involved, and what are the objectives of your education program? If I were a landowner where I live and I did not know anything about this, and all I heard was a program saying, please report it if you see it, that'd be great. Okay, but if I found out later that people weren't telling me that I could have helped myself by killing all my Ailanthus before it arrived, I would have been really disappointed. And so the question is, what do you really want to accomplish, and what do you want to say to people? There's some discussion required to make sure that we're doing the right thing here.
Can I make a suggestion that this is Mike? No matter whether it's a spotted lanternfly or some other invasive insect, what we're talking about tonight is really a process of how to deal with something like this. And we're going to have more things that come along. So wouldn't it benefit us as a region to have a process for dealing with this thing, to include communication and education already mapped out? Maybe we use this as a model to get started, but this isn't going to be the only thing that comes along. It hasn't been the only thing that comes along. There's a process we could put in place here in terms of dealing with things as they come to this region. That's all.
I agree with what you've just said, Mike. So Kim, what was the best way to go to work with Kate? I think I really like the idea of what Rod said, is that it should be a 2-part message. We need you out there to identify and report. And then this is what you can do on your property, which would involve, Rod, I think, having some information perhaps from Blue Ridge Prism about the steps one can take, and then also to be able to send them to your website where they can get the information about how to properly kill the ailanthus on their property. And I think also it's helpful that you could just leave it standing, right? It's not like you have to take it down, because I think it is a little tricky about how you kill them. But Kim, is that something that the NHC would take
Yeah.
the lead on pushing that forward and getting that information to Cape?
Yeah, I'm happy to facilitate it with Cape. That is not a hard thing to do. And I think the sooner it goes out, the better, just to make, just for the awareness. And I'm imagining, I've seen things on the VCE website, and I'm not sure what you have, Rod, on yours, but my guess is that all of the material is already developed, and VDOCS probably has some things that we could use. So yeah, if you want to pull that together and provide it, then we can figure out, what would go out and where to send folks to get more information.
And it's RSWA, right, who does have, I think that if you are in the county and you get a water bill, perhaps you would get, I don't know if they include a bill.
Yes, I will say, I know there's been discussion about information going out with bills in the past, tax bills, water bills, and it's extremely challenging thing to accomplish in Albemarle. I'm not going to say it's impossible, but I just know that from talking with Cape that they have gone at that approach before and not been very successful for whatever reason that I don't know. But so not to squash the idea, but I'm not positive that is actually an option.
Some of us are very good at taking out the materials that don't actually pertain to the bill and never reading them.
Yeah.
I have done that when I had Comcast. I failed every time to see every important thing included. So anyway, I can be your poster child for that difficult person. It wasn't purposeful. It was just how it happened.
Good point.
Kyle, could you share the flyer do you have the PDF that you could just send all of us to just see? Oh, yeah. Do you have the PDF of that, or?
Sure, yeah.
Just so
We've actually revised it. That's the older version. I have both of them, but we've made one that's a little newer. I have them all in PDFs. Yeah,
awesome.
and
that would be great.
That was a great comment, Kate. I know probably a half of them are just going to get pulled and thrown in the trash, but it's definitely something. If it's an option, then maybe we try it. What I don't want, and this is, I hope Charlottesville never gets to the case of Winchester, but maybe we'll talk in a few years. But what's kind of difficult for me now is I'll go up to someone's house and they have thousands in their backyard, and on a tree of heaven or walnuts, and I'll say, do you know about spotted lanternfly? And they say, no, I have no idea. And that's not good for a program. People move in, people don't care about what's in their backyard sometimes, but
they have an idea.
Yeah, they don't even know what an ailanthus is. Sometimes I can start telling them about it and they'll, oh yeah, I have one of those. Okay.
Are they open to you coming in and sort of treating or managing it? Or
nine, I would say 8 or 9 out of 10 are, and the other 1, maybe 2, depends on the time, will call me or email me at least a few months later, typically, please come out. Anything you want, please come help me. They're everywhere.
Like the vaccine.
It's always like a no, get off my property. And then within a few months, it's like, oh no, I didn't
Wish I had it. So I was at the
Now.
Philadelphia Flower Show last month, and the Bartlett Tree Company had some really nice flyers about the spot lanternfly. I can make a scan of it and show people it's at work now, but
Yeah.
I picked up a couple. Yeah. So,
If I may, let me just drop a couple of other quick items on the table. I actually have and Kyle's seen, and I think Christine may have seen a version of it. I've got a PowerPoint that's 15, 20, 25 slides long just on this subject and what can be done about it. And I'm not proposing to go through that here tonight. I don't think you've got the time for it, but yeah, just a couple of things I'll mention, because in there are some statistics from the state of Pennsylvania, for example, where they have done, people have done, the Penn State Extension has done economic estimates of the impact on the state. And they're estimating anywhere from $300 to $500 million a year of economic impact once the bug covers the whole state. The numbers are only in the $50 million range at the time the study was done. But it's interesting also, and I don't understand all the details behind this yet, but roughly the impact on agriculture, which is quite large, but was actually slightly smaller than the impact on the forest products industry. And I don't know how they measured that, but so this isn't just an agricultural issue. Yeah, it clearly has impacts on the forest products industry as well, and the numbers are significant. So yeah, it's just a question of how aggressive do we want to get as an organization and a county about trying to mitigate, not eliminate. I mean, Kyle's going to do the best he can to help us eliminate anything that's found. But it would seem inevitable from Pennsylvania's experience that sooner or later we're all going to have it in our backyard. And the question is, what are we going to do, and how aggressive are we going to get in trying to mitigate that and reduce the impact before it gets here, and as well as when it's here.
Well, we have to do more than talk about it, that's for sure. If we don't sit
Absolutely.
down and map out a process on how we deal with this and future things, why we're just kind of spitting in the wind, to be honest with you. So I would push, or I would propose that somehow we find a way to get together and sit down and look at this thing in a process format. So we can get words out, we can get education done, we can communicate the way we think we need to, and like you're suggesting, Rod, stay ahead of the game.
Perhaps there could be a news article with the Albemarle County Parks as you're taking down or killing an ailanthus, with the whole story. This is the action we're taking, this is how you do it, this is why we're doing it.
Well, it's a multimedia approach, because any one thing you do is only going to be viewed by 1% of the population, or you put in your own number. But so the answer is it's going to have to be widespread, consistent, multi-channel communications if you really want to go after it.
I think that's a great idea, Christine.
It does sound like we have an action plan.
You did the interview.
Yeah. So it does sound like we have an action plan, at least some action items to start here. And so let's go ahead and pursue those.
Well,
And then
yeah, go
I
ahead.
think it would be, to the point that was made, I think it's good to document our process of how we did this and how we've approached this issue, so that the next time it comes up, we can say, what's our template? So that's not a bad idea. And we can certainly measure our outreach. How much, hopefully we can enlist our partners and see how much outreach, what the response was to the outreach efforts. So
Again, I'm going to to quiet down here. But yeah, I mean, from my standpoint, the way I look at these things, there's no substitute for a communication that goes directly to every landowner in the county.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of, I think a lot of people are on, AMail, Albemarle Mail, and I think there's probably we're gonna probably have to reach out to through multiple media channels. I mean, one thing I thought about is if there was a budget, targeted social media, advertisements might be a very useful way to go about it as well. Particularly as where infestations are occurring, you can definitely hit people on social media.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the assessor in the county records office has in effect, I assume, has a mailing list for the entire county, if we could leverage it. And a second way to do it, which people may be less familiar with, is every door direct mail, which is a facility of the post office offers, where you can literally hand them a flyer and they will deliver it to everybody on the postal routes that you select.
Except
Yeah.
it'll probably take 3 years to get there these days.
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
That's a risk. I agree.
Can I just show you all one? I know you all probably, let me just show you one last thing. I wanted to bring this up. This is here. And so this is the city, this is before my time, but this is the city of Winchester's. They have what's called a ArcGIS story map. I'm not super familiar with it, learning about it, but this is something that other states and other cities are doing to work with the residents to demonstrate, what's going on. And so the arborist and some folks in the city came up with this pretty early on. And there's actually all of their information in one area. And then this is the part I was going to try to get to show you. Where is it here? I think. Oh, shucks. There was a map. That was the best part. I'm trying to remember how to get there. Maybe it's here, where we were sharing our data with them as we were doing treatments. So when spotted lanternfly was in a small section of Winchester, we were able to, I think through a memorandum of understanding, share this with the city of Winchester. And they posted this so residents knew where populations were and they could go and see how far it was from them and then communicate through this channel. And all the information was there. So just something I'm throwing out there. I can get this link, or you can just type in City of Winchester spotted lanternfly and it brings you to this. I just wanted to show you that. And then it talks about the quarantine, but right now, and that's maybe a conversation for another time, but those three counties, Frederick, Clark, and Warren, are all under quarantine. So probably also something we should want to make sure gets communicated if there are people that business they operate into the quarantine area or into another state that's quarantined. They get that information. So I just thought I'd show you that. It's a pretty decent little page.
Kyle, since you bring that up, do you know how big an infestation has to be before a quarantine is imposed?
I saw that question in your email, and that's why I didn't answer it yet. It's not necessarily based on size, it's risk. So we don't take a quarantine lightly. Myself, my supervisor, it's a process that we have to go through, and we're very open about it, but it's for the same reason we quarantined those three counties. We were trying to limit the spread to other counties like Albemarle. And but it's a big undertaking. So it's not just the restriction on all of the businesses and residents, because quarantine's for everybody. It's not just a business or organization inside the county. It's anybody that comes in or travels through, other than like to stop and get gas or stop at a rest stop. So it covers a lot of people. And getting that across and making sure people understand it. There's a bunch of things that go into it. So it's based on risk. I know I'm trying to skate, but I don't want to tell you this many acres. It's based on risk, trying to mitigate spread to surrounding counties.
But part of my point here would be that, you know, the answer is, if this gets out of hand in Albemarle County, then we run the risk of eventually falling into that quarantine or a quarantine. And it's worth a lot of pain and effort to try to avoid that or put it off as long as possible.
Should say, because it's intrastate, so trying to keep it from moving around the state. It's also interstate, so North Carolina does not want this pest. Tennessee does not want this pest. I mean, the states that don't have it don't want it. Same reason we don't want Asian longhorn beetle. We won't even go there. But it's also restriction to businesses who have global trade. So just quick thing, if a spotted lanternfly were found in a shipment of, let's just say, logs, it could cost tens of thousands of dollars for that business.
I would bet it's millions.
I really think it would be effective to go, like, 'cause we don't have the energy and manpower to go speak one-on-one with everyone in the county, but I think we could go and meet with wineries and people who are managing wineries and give them a packet of information that they can share on their social media. They can share with people who come into the winery, because they have financial incentive to get the residents around the area and people to become educated about this. And so I think that would be a good way to sort of like disperse the knowledge and get other people on board with sharing. And some of these wineries have like huge social media outreach, and I think that might be a good way, you know, if we give them a package of it, what to say, the link to the VCE, like all the information.
Well, it's
That
like the
might be-
larger organizations do the work for us. You know, these wineries belong to an alliance or a group of wineries. You know, and especially you were talking about economic development impacts. You know, who's talking to the economic development organization here in Albemarle County? Has anybody done that? I guarantee you this will get their attention. If Pennsylvania is experiencing the kind of problem you're talking about, Albemarle is going to want to be out in front of this too.
Mhm.
So again, I would say start with those alliances or those partnerships at the top. And
Yeah, like the Virginia Wine or
let them do the work.
Association.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Well, can I make a suggestion? Mike, do you want to reach out to the Chamber of Commerce? Like, is that something you could do? Emma, I think I'm all on board actually walking into those wineries with that packet of information. So, you know, maybe we could work on Southern Albemarle. We've got a bunch of them here.
Yeah. And I'm friends with Kirsty Hammond, who runs Blenheim, but I know she is connected with lots of the other winemakers in the county. So maybe we could just meet with her, give her the information, and she might have sort of a channel that she can share that with.
And they have an ailanthus tree that's just full of seeds right now, right across from their.
We can just, we could do a demonstration.
You know,
Yeah,
Neil,
so they could put a sign up that's, you know, explains the whole problem right there.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, I know Neil Williamson with the Free Enterprise Forum is also connected to a lot of the wineries. He's a frequent speaker at a lot of the Board of Supervisors meetings, often representing sort of, well, Free Enterprise Forum, which in many ways represents the real estate industry. But I could reach out to Neil and ask him how we could get the word out to wineries.
How about if we do that? I could start a Google Doc, and as you brainstorm, like Mike, if you want to do that, we can lay down the organization that we intend to reach out to. And then by the time, you know, we meet next, hopefully we will have a list we could brainstorm together, and we can, you know, the organization, the winery, who made the contact, what sort of response you got. And then we'd sort of have that list and those contacts What do you guys think about that?
I
think
like that. It sounds like a plan.
I think that's a good idea. I do want to make sure that we've got our local experts, if we've got Rod and Jim and Kyle available to help us with this, because we need credibility when we talk about this.
Well, I think we need to put together the educational materials first, that we have to have a consistent message before we do the outreach.
Absolutely.
And then once we have that outreach, which I think we agreed included information about reporting spotted lanternfly, but also information from Rod about controlling or eliminating Atlantis on your property. So I think we need to get those educational materials solidified. And then I think we can do, as you said, we have a Google sheet. We put together a list of contacts and we all divide and conquer to reach as many people as we can.
I'd be happy to collect all that information and put it in one like Google folder, maybe. That would be the way to do it.
Yeah,
If you
that's
could
great.
send along, Kyle, what you have, that would be really helpful. And then I can see if there's any other information that we'd like to
Can
add.
you put your email in the chat, or I can give you mine?
Yeah, I'll put mine in the chat.
Okay.
So Kim, would that be helpful if Emma could gather those items, that material, and then you could send it through Cape?
Yeah, that would be helpful.
Yeah.
Christine,
I mean,
just-
whatever Kate puts out will be like a much distilled message, because it's going to go in either an email or, through social media. But if we have, the pertinent links ready to go, or it can be even linked to PDF, then, I'll include all those things.
Thanks, Kim. Cape is our go-to, and they'll get it out quick and to the right folks. The news will be on it very quick.
Yeah.
Great. Hey.
Emma, feel free to just pull down the Atlantis fact sheet from the Blue Ridge Prism website.
Awesome.
Christine, a housekeeping question. So how much time do we have left in the meeting, and what other agenda items, if you can pull up the.
So we need to end promptly at 7:30, and we do have a few items in terms of, we have the report to the board that I want to just mention. And you had a couple of things. I think you had something, Lonnie, you wanted to add. And
I did.
But yeah, so we only have about a half hour left in the meeting. So, but I think that we have some ideas, we have some action plans to move forward with this. And Jim, you said you have a bunch of the flyers already that you've already disseminated?
Whatever, Kyle, you gave me the other day, and I saved one just to show you guys, but could use more for sure. But I've given them out to staff to put in the parks and in our kiosks.
I have plenty of materials. Either myself or Tina can bring them by. We can mail them. You just let us know what we can provide, and digitally, obviously, we can do that easily. But if you actually want,
and that's fine, Kyle. You shoot that, and we can, print as many as we need. You don't have to.
Yeah, Jim, I was just thinking that if you could, rather than us having to print it out of our own pocket, it would be nice to be able to get those materials, and that way, for example, Clement and I were going to go out and talk to the wineries. That would be nice to have that.
Yeah, let me. I'll get a stockpile here, and I can make these actually here in the office. Or Charlie next door is always a good go-to at the copy center. So.
Great.
Could I just ask one final question, and that is, how familiar are the actual board of supervisors, the 6 supervisors, with this problem and the magnitude of the impact that it threatens to have? I mean, are they all fully knowledgeable of this, or is there a communication that needs to go from this group to them to make sure that they are fully aware of what's coming down the road, literally?
Right.
That's an
So
excellent-
when Kyle notified me, I went, to county executive staff with some of our conversations, and I'd leave it to them to address the board about it. I know Kyle has, maybe not our board, but has discussed with other board members in other counties. So
Yeah,
just as kind of the chain of command goes, I just kind of went up the ladder. So
I think the,
absolutely, I'm sure they're aware.
yeah, I think
Or
of the,
should be, but they will be soon. So it was on the news this morning. I saw an article on 29 about the spotted lanternfly in the area. So.
yeah, I think of the conversation about the economic potential of quarantine hasn't reached the Board of Supervisors. I think that would be a point that someone should get in front of them.
I would like to, you all feel free to do, whatever you think best for your group, but when it comes to presenting to the board and city councils, that's something that myself or my supervisor usually do. What we like to do is kind of get some surveys underhand so that when we go and talk to them, we have a better understanding of where things are or aren't. And so now that we've gotten enough boots on the ground, that's something I'll probably look to do, but be glad to, share in a meeting if there's something else we want to talk about. But I have like a 10-minute presentation. Sometimes I can do it in 8 that goes over quarantines and the whole, I don't go into biology much, but usually I only get about 15 minutes in a supervisor meeting. So just wanted to put that out there. They should know, but we haven't done a formal meeting yet. But I would probably look for either early September or whenever they can fit me in.
Thank you, Kyle. That would be very helpful when it gets to that point, I'm sure.
And how soon in advance do you have to get on their, on the docket for that? And who takes care, who is the liaison for making sure that that happens?
Kim, I mean, would that come from your department? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess maybe it would be cooperative since it's in parks, like the actual outbreak is in parks, but yeah, it takes a few months. But so I don't know if, if something is really urgent, if they could squeeze it in, might be possible. Yeah, you can get something, like a for your information item on much quicker as, a consent item, but that's different than a presentation.
Yeah, would that go to the county manager and then he would work that into the docket? Or, I'm sorry, work it into the agenda or schedules?
Yeah, there's a process. So I don't know, Kyle, how you've approached that process, like in other counties, but there's a process where we work with the clerk typically when it's staff putting an item in. I don't know how it works with an external agency putting an item in.
This is the first time we found it on county or city-owned property first. So typically I'm on someone else's property and then going out from there. And then I'm guessing maybe I'm in for a learning curve with Albemarle, but typically when I send an email sometimes within 2 weeks, I'm on the docket. So, and usually they're nice enough to put me at the top. So, and my 10 minutes typically goes longer, but that's just been a trend of more questions from supervisors about quarantine type questions. We'll see. Hopefully that's the case, but I'm guessing after this conversation, I need to do that tomorrow.
Yeah, sooner was probably better than in terms of how full their agendas are, at least through November now.
I think that would be great. And I think I will write a letter to the board on behalf of the Natural Heritage Committee as well. And I will send that out. So if anybody wants to include some of those, the economic impact pieces of that, or Mike, we could collaborate on that as well.
It sounds like either Kyle or Rod, I can't remember, one of you all had some information about that. And Rod, you said you already had a 15-slide presentation put together. I don't know what it addresses, but if there's something that we could use to communicate, that would be helpful.
Yeah, Rod, if you could share that with us, that'd be great. I can't remember if you shared it with me. Oh, you're
Rod,
muted.
you're muted.
I gave you an earlier version. I can give you an updated one, and feel free to share it. Bear in mind, it was put together to address the question on a statewide basis, and so it's got a statewide, more of a statewide perspective than a county perspective, but at the 85% level, it all still applies.
Mhm. Yeah. All right. Well, I want to thank our guests so much for the work that you're doing, number one, and for taking the time to come and talk to us. And I hope that we can be partners in helping to spread the word and move forward and do what we can to try to help mitigate this problem. And
And that's definitely where public awareness and you guys helping out, obviously, it will be huge. And thank you, Kyle. Like I say, I'm as new to this as probably everybody, and I've learned a lot the last couple of weeks, but Kyle obviously is my go-to and working out, proactive approaches in the future and how to go about it. I'm going to him because this is his specialty. So
Kyle's a good guy. I've known him for years at this point. So good to see you again.
he said he had mentioned you. Yeah. So I met him a week or so ago here in the office and look forward to working with him and maybe on some other critters in the future that aren't as bad as this.
And let me know if I can help in any of this. So,
Rod, thanks.
Thank you all. Yeah, appreciate it. And let me know if you don't have my contact information. I, for some reason, can't get into the chat on this Zoom.
I can't either. I was wondering how y'all were doing it.
I don't have it either.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't have chat option for a public meeting, so. But I have your email from the earlier exchange, so we can get everybody's contact information around.
Yeah, feel free to call me on that 804 number or my email. It's fine. Thank you all. Look forward to working with everybody.
Thanks so much.
Thanks,
all right.
Thanks, everybody.
Have a
Good to
good
meet everyone.
Yeah.
Thanks
good
for having us.
evening. Thanks. Bye. All right. Thanks, Rod.
you can put me back as an attendee and I'll probably drop off somewhere along the line here.
Thank you. All right, you guys. We really need to end promptly at 7, but Emma, thank you for putting together that Google Doc so that we can make sure that we're following through with this and doing what we can to spread the word. But thank you also for taking the lead on helping to put the materials together as well. So that would be fantastic. I think that, we just had our usual important sites and some of those items on the list. I know that I have not followed through on any of the important site work. I don't know if anybody has anything to report on that. And if not.
I do.
Okay, go
That
ahead.
was my agenda item.
All right, Lonnie.
So one of the things I wanted to pull up, see if I can find it on the site. But anyway, so my wife and I went to the Paperbird site in Albemarle County, and so we went there and we found that that it was extremely overgrown and the paper birches were way more in decline than the last time I went there with Devin Floyd a long time ago. And so I reached out to Nancy Veres at the Virginia Native Plant Society, and she suggested that I reach out. She gave me a name of the lead person at, the lead botanist at the Shenandoah National Park. And so I had a conversation with them, and they shared some very interesting data, which I'm going to try and pull up from the Google Docs site. see, someone will need to give me permission to share if I don't already have it. Important sites, folders. And then let's see if I can find. Put it in here.
While you're looking for that, Lonnie, can
Yeah.
I just wanted to share with everybody that, I'm on the SWAC committee, and I was able to have a subcommittee meeting or a small meeting in person. And so I think I had conveyed that to everybody that, we can have an in-person meeting. We just have to make sure that we post it. So I would love to meet with the education and outreach group, and I will send a separate email out to you guys, and we can perhaps find a time where we can meet in person. And then that way we can just keep going, right? Because it's obviously that's the only way that we can have any additional conversations. So, but I just wanted to put that also out for this policy group, and so that we can continue to make progress on some of these topics that we were all concerned about. And Mike, we have yet to meet. So, really, I don't know what you've been thinking in terms about where you want to jump in, and we can have that conversation, but.
Sure. Well, let me send you an email with some availabilities, and we'll kind of compare notes and see when we can work something out.
Yeah, sounds good.
Well, also the invitation's still open to come to my place. And Kim and Christine came, and here are the wild orchids we found. They bloomed. I'll send you the actual photos, but there's purple ones and white ones. But
Oh yeah, send me the photos. I can't see that well on the phone. but I
I'll
definitely
send
wanna
them to
see.
you, but
Okay.
we can make that a public meeting place.
So what species, what, I didn't see the white ones was.
The purple fringed orchid is what one came up, but
And
I don't
then-
know you didn't see the white one?
Well, I couldn't see on your phone. You can send me the pictures and I can help you identify them.
Awesome. I'll send them to you. I'll add you. Is that allowed?
Yeah, sure.
To have
So-
3 people in an email? Okay.
So anyway, can you guys see my screen?
Yeah.
So this is pretty interesting. So as you can see, they were actually charting the number of plants of Cornus canadensis, which is one of the rare plants at the site. And you can see you can see the numbers start to decline until in 1990 there were only 14 plants left. And then you see suddenly there's this big spike in the number of plants, and now you see it starting to decline again. And then the last survey they did was 2018. Well, what happened in this big spike was a fire. So, so after mentioning, after bringing this topic up to the Shenandoah National Park, they reached out to their fire managers, and they're planning to do, and after reaching out to them and telling them about this is an important site, that it's kind of overgrown. They're going to send they're going to wait like another 2 years before sending someone out to the site, but they're going to send someone out to the site this year, and they're going to get it on the burn schedule. So they're going to schedule with the burn unit to go out and do a controlled burn of this area. And so that's a great thing, because I don't know what the numbers could be. They could be back down at 14 or lower, because we were unable to find Cornus canadensis at the site when Sharon and I went out there. It was densely overgrown, and so we even found a marker where I thought we'd seen it last time, and there weren't any plants there. So I hope maybe getting some fire on the ground again, we can save the species and keep it around Albemarle County, because this is the furthest south. If I could see, I can pull up. Just gonna pull up burnout for a second. Okay, so if we go to Cornish canadensis, oops, sorry, wrong one. So if you look in here, that county right there, that's Albemarle County. And so that's the farthest southeast occurrence of the species in the entire United States. Which is pretty incredible that this, this is a plant that's normally found in Canada and way up into the Arctic. We saw it up into Alaska. So the fact that it even occurs in Albemarle is incredible, but it's also important, in terms of climate change resiliency, to preserve things at the edges of their range. And so making sure that we don't lose the species from the county is very important. So it's very exciting to make a contact with the Shenandoah National Park and make sure that with the paper birch trees and the species were protected. I'll upload some photographs of the site for anyone who wants to see them. Just look in the folder up on the drive. So that's my report.
Well, it sounds like a success story that you're able to get them
Yeah.
to do the burn, and that's fantastic.
Yeah, and it's just a great example of the importance of fire on the landscape, and the danger of like fire suppression is clearly fire is meant to be on the landscape, and when you're suppressing it does have impacts on biodiversity.
Yeah, very nice. Well, thanks for that report, Lonnie. I'm going to just move to, we also have our working groups, and I know the education committee has not met. And so the only thing that I just want to report is that, the Rivanna Master Naturalists, actually Virginia Master Naturalists have done this workshop on the, what is it, maps, ed maps. And so they're trying to get master naturalists to actually train them so that they can identify invasive species, which I thought was pretty cool. And so that's been going on. And so there's like a whole state, a group of people from across the state are getting trained to use that app. And also the master gardeners just kicked off their garden center liaison program for the plant Northern Piedmont natives. And with this wonderful little packet that we're going to a bunch of the local nurseries and trying to encourage them to offer more native plants. So that kicked off. So that is my report about that. And Leah's not here, but Kim, do you want to share about the app? Because I did see that came through for the Master Naturalist.
Yeah, I don't know how many people are on Master Naturalist, but actually I was just out at the road crossing sites today with Brett Jesmer, who is the assistant professor from Tech, who is interested in road ecology and wildlife, and Bridget, who Donaldson from VDOT, who came out to speak with us a few months ago. And so what's interesting about Brett is that he may have some graduate students and, set up some additional research studies, which would be amazing in that area potentially, or throughout the county. But we're also doing a collision survey along that stretch of 29, systematically collect data to understand where hotspots might be, and natural corridors where animals are crossing. So the Master Naturalist will be a citizen scientist effort, and we're recruiting Master Naturalists locally to collect the data and sign up to do it on certain days. And the Center for Large Landscape Conservation, which is out west, developed that roads app, and they've been kind enough to do it for free, just develop it for us for Virginia with our own species list and our own criteria. So we now have this this cool app that people can use, and they have to go in pairs because there's one driver and one person using the app. That's the rule to record roadkill. But we'll pilot it here on the 29 project, and then in Albemarle maybe more broadly to understand where wildlife are moving. And then it may go out and be used, throughout the rest of Virginia, which is really cool.
And can anybody use the app even if you're not a master naturalist or not
Yeah,
yet?
I can send you, yeah, you can. I can send you the QR code. Anyone can use it. And it has, one of the choices is to select whether you're doing it as part of our systematic survey for that stretch of 29, or if it's just anywhere else in the county.
Oh, okay.
So you would select anywhere else, and you can record roadkill or live animals on the road wherever you see them. Yeah.
Well,
That's so amazing. I'm so excited. I've been
Yeah.
like doing it myself, but it'll be so cool to be able to like hook into a system where other people can, where the information is useful.
Yeah, and I'll make a note. I'll send out the information, even if you don't want to sign up to do the surveys. You can you can get the app with the QR code and record wherever you want to, and test it out. And there's a dashboard, like a GIS dashboard, where you can look and view the different species and see where they are on the map. So that's kind of cool too. It just happens automatically, gets uploaded when you hit submit. So it's kind of exciting.
Congratulations. That's great.
Does it have the ability to pull in when you upload a photo, does it have the ability to pull in the GPS coordinates of the photo automatically, or do you have to take?
So the very first thing you do with the app is, and I can do a demo at our next meeting. I can just share it on my screen. But it's the very first thing you do is lock in the location. So as soon as you see the roadkill, you just hit this check mark and it automatically records your GPS location. The photo is kind of optional because we don't really want people stopping along the road, at least on 29. It's very dangerous. So the photo is not required, but the location will just automatically, when you hit the check mark, get recorded.
And then do you choose the specific species from a drop down, or do you have to write it in?
Yeah, there's a drop down of all the common species, and then it has like other mammal, other bird, those choices. And so it's really just a best guess, and then it has your confidence, whether that's high or medium and low. And there's a comment box if there's something else not on the list, but I think it has most of the common things you would see.
Does it include reptiles and amphibians, or just mammals?
No, we have I think there's a category for other reptile or other amphibian right now. We can also modify it though, because we created it for this stretch of 29, and so we're not recording reptiles and amphibians when we're driving. That would be difficult on that or impossible. So that's more appropriate for like a walking or a biking type of survey.
Yeah, on Sugar Hollows, because I do a lot of running. I mean, sometimes I would encounter, reptiles and amphibians that have been hit, and so it'd be interesting to be able to record those.
Yeah, and you can record them in the other and then just write it in. But if we wanted to, we can modify the app to the list if we want to broaden it out beyond this survey area. So
I think you definitely should include box turtles.
Yeah. Yeah, I know,
But,
turtle.
Is this research like going towards like a program or like a wildlife crossing that you all are hoping to?
Yeah, so I know we only have 10 minutes left, but I can share with you, Emma, because I think you and Mike, or I can just share with the whole group. I have written up a report recently and given a presentation to the Virginia State Wildlife Corridors Collaborative, which is a statewide group that kind of summarizes what we're doing and why. And so, and specifically the crossings that we're looking at 29. So I'll share that with you. I don't want to spend too much time because I know we only have a few minutes left, but yeah.
All right, thanks, Kim. So I know the policy group has not had a chance to meet, but I do want to encourage you guys to try to, if possible, to have, it would be an in-person meeting, I guess. But Carolyn did very graciously offer some time. I don't know if that's still possible.
Yeah, I can, but today at the town hall for the county, they were discouraging in-person meetings. They haven't opened it up to that yet.
Well,
yeah, and I've heard the same thing. So it sounds like your SWAC group is an outlier, but I don't I have not heard anything about people being able to meet in person. In fact, like Carolyn said, they've been telling us the opposite. So, so I don't know.
But yeah, you can reach out to me. We can talk about it if you guys meet during the daytime, lunchtime. Mondays are the only daytime meetings that I have. I'll be glad to work with you guys during the day if you want to do that. I am going to sign off, but Nicole from IT is going to conclude the meeting for you guys and shut everything down.
Thank you, Carolyn.
Unfortunately, I'm
Carolyn.
past time. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Right.
Did we lose Christine?
Christine looks frozen.
Yes.
And she's gone.
Oh, Christine, are you back?
Let's give her a minute. Maybe she'll come back. Oh,
They're trying to hook back on the Wi-Fi or something.
wonder if she got.
So while I'm waiting, Kate, I think we said we were going to do this before, but why don't you and I get together and talk about when to do the policy meeting?
Yeah, great.
All right. Oh, sorry about that, you guys. My computer died. The one last item that I want to discuss is, right, I hope everybody's had a chance to see the report to the board. Has everybody looked at that?
Yes, I did. And so I think Kate had some good comments about some things to include for
Yeah.
policy.
Yeah,
think
I
it's-
did. I added like a sentence in there, and I left a comment. I think I highlighted, it was just one sentence, that you guys do have a prioritized work, like a policy list that you've created.
Yes, and so I think that's the most important thing to highlight. I mean, we did have some, I think over the course of the year, we had various opportunities where staff came in and talked about policy. I think we had Scott Clark come in.
Yeah, and I listed all of that,
Yes.
I think did I put Scott Clark? I think I put him in there. But if not, I will make sure that I have. But I think I listed like all the speakers that came in and talked to us. So I think I read your emails and I went back and I looked at the document. I think I've covered. And if you don't think I have, I encourage you to go in and just add what you would like to that document.
Yeah, I think you did a good job.
Okay. So I don't know if that's something we need to vote on, or Kim, do you think we just, if everybody's had a chance to take a look at it, we didn't have to include any goals, which was nice. I think we're just reporting. And I did.
Yeah.
I think we should vote on it because it is reported, because it's going to be reported to the Board of Supervisors. So we should all lend our consent to it.
Okay. And has everybody looked at it?
I had not, obviously. Mike.
Yeah. So Kate, you've looked at it?
I need to look at it too.
I was just going to go back and see if things had changed since I read it the first time, but probably not.
Just a little, I highlighted in yellow, just the one place that I had added, something that related to your list of prioritized policy that you've looked at. So Lonnie's looked at it, Kate's looked at it. Or the other thing we can do is we can give everybody a chance to look at it, get your feedback, and we can, just via email.
Yeah, well, what I would say is I think that we need to, I think we can approve it with delegated authority that to Christine to deliver this, including any changes that people may need, including minor changes that people may need to propose before it gets delivered.
I think that's a good idea because I need to submit it soon to the board. I need to submit
Then we
it.
just need to set a deadline for
next-
response. Like we just need to set a deadline for people and say respond by this point, or it's assumed that you don't have any feedback.
That sounds good. And why don't we set that for 1 week, is that too much? Is that,
Yeah,
Good.
that's good.
Is that good, Kim?
Yeah, that's fine. Yep.
okay?
All right,
so-
so are we voting on this then?
So yeah, so I move that we grant Christine delegated authority to submit this to the Board of Supervisors on our behalf, with any changes, any minor changes that may be submitted in the next week by committee members.
By August 13th, yeah, or August 12th. That's a week from the day.
Okay. So then someone just needs to second that.
I second it.
All right, Bruce, are you in agreement?
Yes.
Emma,
Yes.
Mike,
Abstain.
Kate?
Yes.
Okay, great.
And then Lonnie, aye.
Fantastic.
You still have to ask the people, even if they were the ones that submitted it.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for keeping us straight, Lonnie. All right, well, I believe our time has ended here. And so, but Emma, I think if you are willing to, no, we can't do that anymore, apparently. Really, we cannot have an in-person meeting? Is that what you understand now?
That is my understanding. And actually, I was going to tell you that they were scheduling for October to go back to in-person, but I think that is changing now because of the rising cases. So it could be a bit longer. It will be a bit longer is what I anticipate. So I was holding back that announcement because I just found out today that it's likely going to change again.
Yeah.
Christine, I just gotta say, you look so sad on that news. I just want to give you a big hug. You're like
I
the
need one. I
saddest
need one.
about in-person meetings of anyone I know. Most people are excited about it, but
It's really sad.
It is,
I think we've been spoiled.
it is sad. It is sad. I think we're all eager to get back to normal, and
yeah.
it's sad to see it not. But hey, take those opportunities to get outside and explore some of these places. We have the special sites. I finally got out and saw one, and I have the scratches to prove it. It was total bushwhacking for several miles. So,
Well, I'm covered with tick nip bites.
Oh, don't say
oh,
that.
no,
Oh.
no.
Hundreds. So I don't want to
But-
get out to anything anymore right now.
Yeah,
But
do
yeah,
apply
they-
that insect spray there.
yeah, I should have. It's too late now. But we've been hearing that Bob White at Tufton every day is wonderful. So happy news there. So.
Well, on that wonderful piece of news, Peggy, we are going to adjourn this meeting. And we'll all follow up with our emails and try to make progress here.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks again. Enjoy
Have-
Maine.
Have a
Good
good
night,
evening,
everybody.
guys. Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye-bye.
Be in
Bye-bye.
touch, Christine. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.